So it is great to see everyone tonight. Thank you so much for coming. I know there's a lot going on. We got the first NBA Finals game. We got the beginning of the summer. We got a lot going on tonight. But I want to thank everyone for coming. I see Bruce Stein. I mean, come on. So I know we're doing all right if Bruce Stein is here. So I want to welcome everyone again. This is our third event of 4525 Live, where we talk to leaders in our community because they have inspiring stories that I hope will all leave enriched as human beings and as Jews, that will feel better about our Judaism and about our Jewish community and about our community in general. So, Stephen?
Yeah, Brian, I'm really excited to be here as well. We really I feel like we stepped it up tonight. We've got a great crowd. Let's give a round of applause to the crowd. We got this drapes back here. We didn't have that before. We got pop-up banner, really nice. Cool pop-up banner.
Thank you, Jennifer, for the pop-up banner.
We got some flowers in a vase.
We had the flowers before.
You sure?
Yeah, positive about
that. But that pop-up banner's new, for sure.
Pop-up banner is new.
Pop-up banner. We got the edamame salad. I mean, it's good. I'm excited. So we have a really great, fascinating guest tonight. But Brian, I'm excited, but I'm a little sad because it's our last event. I know.
So our last event for this year. I mean, we can keep it going in the fall. Season 2. All right.
Season 2.
All right.
Okay.
We'll keep it going after the holidays. And but most importantly tonight, I'm excited about our speaker tonight. She's got an incredible story. But Stephen, just a reminder, we got to be a little delicate with our line of questioning.
What do you mean? Why?
Well, she is the president of Triple S Steel.
And?
Yeah, well, I think you just got your answer. It is the Stein's company.
And because, David Stein is the immediate past president of the synagogue, and you don't want to upset him by anything?
Well, there's that.
And the Stein family are really generous benefactors of your programs and everything at the synagogue?
There's that.
And if this doesn't go well, you get canned?
There's that.
Okay. Brian, this is our third time. I'm feeling pretty good. I know what I'm doing up here. I'm a business person. She's a business person. This is gonna be fine. I got some tact. Don't worry about it.
It's just my career, but go for it.
It's gonna be good. Okay.
All right, so I think we're ready for our speaker.
I think we're ready. So we're gonna bring her out. Everybody, let's give a warm Beth Yeshurun welcome to Nataly Marks. Is she here? Cue the music.
There she is.
Little nod to Tina Turner there. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Let me turn that on for you. There you go.
Here we go.
All right, there we go. There we go.
Saying I like the come out song.
So Natalie, you are our third guest, and actually you have the distinction of being the first guest that's not in the food nutrition related field.
Yes, I'm the guest that doesn't have a show or a book, so I feel like I need to do a dance up here.
Oh well, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. The other two, we got the conversation started because of the field that they were in. We just started off with a little banner about what they had for lunch, but you're a business person. We needed kind of the equivalent, and I'm sure you get this question all the time. But why don't we start with on a typical work day, which Stein family member rubs you the wrong way the most? Okay, wait. Okay. I'm kidding. You don't have to answer unless you want to.
You got to be true. You're in the synagogue.
Not Bruce.
Not Bruce. Okay.
All right, we'll assume it's not Bruce. Okay, but Natalie, you are the president of Triple S Steel. It's the 8th largest company in Houston. It's got 40 steel distribution centers, 2,000 employees. It sells 500,000 tons of steel each year. So, and not only that, you're married. You got your wonderful husband Drew here. Let's give a round of applause to him and your 3. And most importantly, your 3 beautiful children that are here.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
My dad is here.
Oh, and your dad's here too.
My amazing husband, who is a huge supporter, and Olivia, Ben, and Connor, and
welcome,
Amanda,
guys.
who's part of our family too.
Welcome. Thank you for being here tonight.
In-laws, and why are you in the back?
You got your in-laws here.
Yes.
Okay, so you got a lot going on here in Houston. I mean, it'd be enough if you weren't working, but on top of all your family obligations, your friends, you're a leader in the community, and of course, being president of the 8th largest company in the city of Houston, it's fair to say you're a busy, very busy person.
Yes.
So I want to know, how do you prioritize your daily task, and how structured are you in your approach to your days and your weeks?
So I think about it as family and work is completely integrated, right? So when I'm at work, sometimes if a family emergency happens or if my kid calls me, I prioritize them, right? I answer it, and actually Gary does the same thing. Anytime he gets a call from family, it's like I got to step out and grab it, right? So I think you have to work in a culture that really fosters that, because it is a lot, right? It's the pie chart is busy. Someone said it to me recently. They said, your problem is you're time poor. I said, it's true. I do feel I'm time poor. So I'm really efficient. I come in and I really figure out, like, how do I move things forward? What's important? I think you have to prioritize. You don't go deep into something that maybe isn't of that highest importance. And I think it is a skill that I've learned really in my prior role too, being as a bank president. You have to balance. There's so many priorities. There's so many issues that are being elevated to you. Right? It's a lot of people. There's people issues, and then there's business issues and business strategy, business priorities. So you have to have like your top 5 front and center, right? I actually write down, I've got a book, and in the back of my notebook, it's strategic. I don't even know if Gary knows this, but the back is the strategic, and the front is the tasks, day to day, and I separate the two. So it's not all kind of in a melting pot.
So what is the plan for Triple S Steel? No, I'm just kidding.
Let me get my trusty notebook. It's confidential.
Okay, good.
So, but as Brian said, there's 2,000 employees. Is that
2,300 globally.
2,300.
Yes.
So, and talk about prioritizing and all that. So, what kind of executive leader are you? I mean, do you delegate effectively, or do you drill down? Are you high level? How do you approach the different things that you do in your job?
I think so. I'm a people first. I think about who from the entire company, who's really good, and who do I need to sort of foster to kind of get to collaborate with me, because we have a lot of talented people. So I think about, okay, this is our mission. We're really trying to fix or solve this problem. I'm going to collaborate with the best minds, the best leaders, and make sure that we're on the same side of the table, right? It's not a delegate necessarily, like you do this because I'm the president. It's let's work on this project together. Make it fun, make it exciting, but execute, move forward, and then follow up, hold people accountable, right? So I think that's something I kind of pride myself in doing. But it is about the people, right? It's about your team. And so I think as much as, I love to bring up people and women in particular, right? Something I really enjoy is mentoring other more junior women, because sometimes I feel like they lack confidence, right? So I'd love to just push them in that direction and see the things that they can achieve. But really mentoring a lot of people. But also, if people aren't a good part of the culture and they're toxic, you have to aggressively manage them out just as aggressively as you bring people up, right? It's a barbell. And if you consistently do that, you have this awesome team that's achieving and performing. And
is that are those decisions around strategy or staffing and people? Which would you say is what's more fun to you or more challenging? Even are those the same, challenging and fun?
I think the fun part is seeing what happens when you invest in people, but people stuff is hard. That's the most challenging. It's the stuff that a lot of people don't like doing, and many times I don't like doing, but it's important. You've got to do the work. The strategy is the fun part, right? And talking to Gary about buying a company, that's the fun part. But like you said, there's all those pillars that are important.
I hear a lot about in this post-COVID world that it's so hard to find good people. Have you noticed that, and how do you find good people out there?
It is really hard. In fact, we are trying something that I think is really unique and different, because while we are looking at all of our, strategies to recruit talent, we're looking at having people who are in-house, like recruiters who work for us, versus utilizing staffing agencies, because they understand the business, they understand the leaders, they can recruit better and more cost effectively. We're doing a lot of the strategies to really, if you come to Triple S, you realize, okay, this company is family owned by this amazing family, and they do a lot more than just deliver steel effectively, and if you have steel needs, call us, but they do a lot more than that, right? It's every day, it's taking care of people. So when gas was really expensive because of inflation, we did a gas stipend, so added money every month to our team's paycheck, right? Which is unusual. There are a lot of things that I think the Stein family does, which is really unique and not kind of the typical corporate stuff. So we have to sell that story, because that is a huge, powerful story to tell. But what I love about, we kind of can sit in a room and say, you know what, we're gonna try something new. So to solve this problem, we have a business in Colombia that's already 500 people, and the people there are wonderful, and they work so hard. We said, why don't we hire more people there to support our US operation? Because people there really wanna work. I think after COVID, it's been hard to find people that want to work hard. And these people are just so incredibly grateful to have the opportunity, and we're paying 20% more than what they can get in Colombia, and it's still cost effective for us, and we're creating jobs in Colombia. I mean, what they're telling us is what you're doing is an amazing thing for this country that has some issues, geopolitical, new government that's pretty tough, and I think that's amazing that we can do that and solve a problem at the same time for us.
Yeah. No, I agree. Okay, so we're going to talk more about Triple S Steel and your everyday, but I want to take everyone a step back, because your background's not your typical background. And I want to say a word about it. I know we got some pictures, I think, to show. So we're going to start showing some pictures up here, and maybe in a moment if you want to describe some of them as well. But, okay, so here's your background. You're an only child, and you grew up until age 11 in Moscow. And thank God your parents got out. Your parents were highly educated, but when they moved you to Boston, when you were 11, they basically had to start over again. So tell us a little bit more about that, and how that experience of being an immigrant, not speaking a word of English.
Dad, that's us.
So how did that affect you today? And tell us about the pictures. Maybe we'll go through those too.
So that's me. I think that may be in Tajikistan. I don't.
She didn't remember well. It's 4 months.
Yeah, this is. I was a baby in Tajikistan, and then I moved to Moscow. So this is when I was still living in Tajikistan. That's where actually I was born. And
Now, what's it called?
yeah, Tajikistan. And try spelling.
Where is that?
It's where all the stands are.
Okay, right.
Are you good to give it a try, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Chikalovsk, which, try putting that on your driver's license application. And that's my mom and my grandmother, my dad's mom, Matilda. And you're going to see there's a theme of really fun Russian hats that that you'll notice. Yep, the theme continues.
Where's that?
That was Moscow. That was my preschool, and this is just a playground, in Russia in the middle of winter.
Mini sanatorium inside the mosque.
Thank you. And that's me, probably about the same age as my son Ben here, and I look like Ben now that I'm looking at Ben and I'm looking at my picture. That's actually pretty amazing.
So just that upbringing there. Tell us about that impact that it had on you, and that transition.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell everybody, look, I grew up in communist Russia, but I had this amazing childhood, and my memories are really positive, even though growing up it was very anti-Semitic. You really had to hide being Jewish, right? I mean, I think that's why this is so special to me, to sit in front of a Jewish community and be a proud Jew and sit here with, these are the people, if anything happened, you know this is the community that would back you. And to have that feeling, it's almost like this warm, comfortable blanket, right? I didn't have that growing up. In fact, I was told, we are Jewish, it's on our birth certificate. Ethnically, we're Jewish. But you can't tell people because they will discriminate against you, right? And my mom was a valedictorian and incredible student. Both my parents are very smart. But they were, very blatant in terms of telling her, we're not going to give you this job because you're Jewish and we don't hire Jews. And so just blatant anti-Semitism and oppression of Jewish people. And, we always had what we needed, though, right? I grow up and I think about walking into the Russian grocery stores. They were completely empty. There was nothing on the shelves. I have very vivid memories of that. And someone would tell you at 3 o'clock at this store, they're going to bring out meat. And then at 5 p.m., if you line up on this street corner, they'll bring out bananas. I actually have a memory of, we waited for 3 hours, and I was so excited to get bananas, and they ran out right in front of me. But again, we made it work. We kind of had to put the effort in to get food on the table, but we had good food. We had a really good life, except for not being allowed to be Jewish. And I think and not having real opportunity, right? So if you work hard in Russia and you do the work and you apply yourself, you still don't get anywhere. You have to have connections, and you'll work below your achievement level, what you can achieve. And so I think my parents knew that, and they really knew that. And for me as an only child, the only way for me to have the opportunity is to move and start over, which was really tough, which was really, really tough for her. I mean, I think that was the hardest thing, and where I learned a lot of what I think I know today of pushing myself out of comfort zones and working hard and really being ambitious and achieving is seeing my parents when we moved, right? That was such a eye-opening. And I was 11, so I remember. I was kind of your formative years.
Do you remember actually processing that at the time, or you think looking back and you reflected on that and it?
I think it's looking back. I think as an 11-year-old, you're just trying to fit in, and I moved here in 5th grade, and everybody called me mushroom head because my hair was cut short and it looked like a mushroom. So I was still dealing with, okay, I'm an immigrant kid, I'm learning the language. I think I was processing all of that and assimilating and learning how to relate to people, which is another thing I think I learned. But now looking back, it's so eye-opening, kind of what they did. Having very intelligent people, my mom having a chemistry background, my dad being a geophysicist, a PhD. And I told the story when Gary was interviewing me. I said, I think one of the questions he said was, this is a pretty hands-on business. This is a steel business. We get dirt under our fingernails. Have you done anything that's kind of out there? You have to get out there and in the nature and be physical because you've been pushing paper around at a bank, And I said, well, I know this. And he's like, what is that? I said, I used to wake up at 6 a.m. and help my dad deliver newspapers to make ends meet. And he'd deliver pizza, and, we started with nothing. You had to get on welfare. We had, Jewish Family Services would bring bags of clothes for us to pick from, and that felt like, oh my God, I get to shop with this, and they were in trash bags, literally, and I was just so happy. My perspective was different. I was like, this is cool that they just bring you clothes here. I love this place. It's amazing.
I can relate a little bit to what you were saying because my family moved from Canada when I was about the same age when you moved from Russia. And I know that transition to a new culture and language and all that. Well, it was the same, spoke English, but it took me all about 2 days to lose saying A. You're like, kids are just terrible at that age, and they immediately just make you feel different.
Yes.
So, and then you adjust quickly, which I guess is part of a blessing of coming at a young age because you can adjust. But then you started talking about, comfort zones and getting out of the comfort zone. Do you, and that's been important throughout your career, I guess, how early on, or can you talk about maybe some early things that you recall that you were like, I really kind of pushed myself to get out of my comfort zone, and maybe, a couple things throughout leading up to, in your career that
Sure.
that resonate?
Sure. I mean, I think if I look at even in college, and it probably started, my mom passed away, as you guys know, and I think I had this sense of, all right, I've got to make her proud. I have to really be successful and be someone she can be proud of. And I have to achieve, and she always dreamed of me, being in business, and that was a career she was pushing me to do. And part of it is I was always good at math, and she felt like that was where I would excel, right? And I think she was right, but I knew that was part of what she wanted, right? And all the boys in my UT business classes or competitive were like, investment banking, if you have a finance degree, that's really hard. Like, you're probably not gonna get it. It's like 5% of people get this internship. Like, we're sorry, you're not. Like, we're probably gonna work at Goldman or JP Morgan, and it's just gonna be hard. So of course, that was the first time where I felt that feeling of like, oh yeah? Like, really? And so, I mean, I had, and it was a tough year because it was during the tech recession in '01, and it was a tough job market. And I went for it, and I was able to get a JP Morgan investment banking internship, and I was the only girl in my entire internship class that summer of like 15 different in the region. And that's where it started. And then I think as I progressed, and I was a banker, and I realized like investment banking is probably not the right career. I want to have kids. I'm working 80, 90 hours a week. This is not sustainable. My husband had a normal job, like normal hours, and showed me the light. Like, you can have a work-life balance. You don't have to do this. So I transitioned to more of a corporate banking career. But when they told me, okay, you want to be a banker, but it's going to take you 7 years more, I was like, I'm gonna push myself. And I left the bank because another bank was willing to take a chance on me. And as a 25-year-old, I was able to drive my own business, have my own book of business, call on CFOs and CEOs of companies. I was really scared, but I did it, right? It was pushing myself out of that comfort zone. And then when I started taking business from JP Morgan Chase, they wanted to hire me back as a senior banker. It was like, wow, like, I was a proven commodity at that point, right? And I think, at the next phase where there was an opening to be a market president, I remember thinking, can I do that? I mean, I'm pretty young. I'm 36. There's like, I don't know if I can do it. And luckily, I've had a lot of really good mentors, right? I've had a lot of people who've sponsored me, who've mentored me, a lot of people in this room. I mean, I've had a lot of people support me, and I went for it, and I somehow got that job. And again, I think the message is, it wasn't that I was ever really comfortable. It was never feeling really confident and was like, I'm gonna go for this job. I was always afraid, and I was just telling myself, I'm just gonna do it afraid. Do it afraid, it's okay. And so, and the same thing with going to a steel company, right? I mean, that was kind of out of left field. Like, how are you gonna do that, A girl in the steel industry? Like, that's crazy. And I had to be brave because it's something I wanted. I wanted to achieve that. I wanted to work on the business side and specialize versus banking, and I went for it. But I think that's where my childhood and like all those lessons learned really tied into my career and how I show up.
So you didn't have dreams of being a steel baron? So what you're saying? Just no.
No,
okay.
No.
But how does the whole comfort zone, and there may be people here that may not apply it to a business career as you did in taking those steps that kind of put yourself out there thinking, okay, I can do this, I'm uncomfortable with it. But even outside of the work environment, how do you advise people, hey, I can apply this thinking, this process to accomplish other things that aren't necessarily in my business career?
I think it's positive self-talk. And I think understanding and reframing that people that do things and maybe they look confident doing them may still be pretty scared inside. I mean, I talk about this with a lot of my friends. Like, they're like, you know what? when I get up there and I'm this, massive trial attorney and I look like I'm just a badass, I'm scared. But I'm doing it anyway. Because I love what I do, and I believe in what I do, and I believe in the cases I'm taking on, so I do it anyway. So it's reframing and knowing most people are afraid. I think men and women more than men sometimes, just in my findings and over my career of working with a lot of younger, more junior people. I always was shocked at talented women who would come and seek my advice and say, I really want to apply for this job. And I looked at, the requirements. I only have 60% of the list, so I'm not going to apply. And I'm like, I just spoke to someone else who is 30%, and they were like, I'm good. I can learn the rest. So just believe in yourself, right? It's invest in yourself. Buy your own stuff.
You hear that, Brian? You're going to be okay.
For your next sermon.
But I have to ask, being the rabbi, is being Jewish ever hurt, helped? Do people look at you differently? Do you ever found any problems at Chase? I mean, I imagine it's triple a steal. Being Jewish isn't going to hurt you, or maybe, I don't know. But at Chase and other things you've done, has that ever been an issue?
It has not. I think the only time I really felt a little uncomfortable was when I was finding my Jewish identity, because that's initially coming to a new country and not having that. It was trying to figure out, how do I fit in with the Jewish community, because what I know is different. And I never had a bat mitzvah, for example. My daughter just had hers 2 weeks ago, and that was March, a month ago. And that was when, feels like 2 weeks ago. But that was when, I stood in front of that room saying, this is incredible. This is the first bat mitzvah on my side of the family, right? I never felt comfortable until I started in college. I joined a Jewish sorority, met some really amazing Jewish friends, and then through my husband, who grew up here and has, the entire sort of typical Jewish upbringing where he knows a lot of people in the Jewish community, I made a lot of amazing Jewish friends, and there's a comfort zone. Some of them are here. There's a comfort zone, right? There's just this feels good. And so when I say get out of your comfort zone, it's good to have a comfort zone. That is something you want. But push yourself out sometimes. I mean, I think for me, because of my background, I have a lot of non-Jewish friends. I have, because my high school, essentially, I really hadn't felt my Jewish identity yet. I was trying to figure that out. And so a lot of my friends were Gentiles. It was and it was great. I think some of them are still my best friends today. And what I was fascinated by, and then through work, JP Morgan, a lot of my friends, not Jewish, right? The fascinating part is people would say, you're the only Jewish person I know. A lot of people
And this
say
is Memorial High School, right?
Memorial High School, or people at work. And it just made me think, if I'm the only one, I'm your gateway. I'm your opening to the Jewish community. So if you think about, and hopefully I'm representing it well, I mean, that's a responsibility, but I think I am, right? Because I personalized it. And so then when we talk about oppressed cultures, and it could be any oppressed group needs allies. You have to have allies. You can't do it yourself. So putting that out there, I think the more we do have friends that are also from different backgrounds and introduce how amazing the Jewish religion and culture is, the more support and understanding, and you can fight anti-Semitism. I mean, AIPAC is actually great at this, right? They take a lot of non-Jewish leaders, mayors, et cetera, to Israel to sort of break down those walls, and I think we can do that also at the friendship level.
Well, look, can I throw in a little Devar Torah? You okay? But no, I mean, I thought of this when you were talking, and the Steins are great examples of this, but I've given sermons about this before, and I'll continue to, but the first question, according to the rabbis, will be asked when we go to heaven is, were you honest in business? And that's such an important concept, because not only do we want to have lives of integrity, but we're representing Judaism to the greater world out there. And that's why the rabbis say that's the first question. Were you honest in business? And if you're honest in business as a Jew, you'll reflect well on Judaism. And so it's good to know that you're doing your best you can out there.
I love that.
Yeah, it's good. I didn't write that. That's thousands of years ago. But
So I was also
going to ask.
ask.
On the spot. That's impressive.
So I was kind of messing with you a little bit about the, wanting to grow up to be in the steel business, but not that it's not exciting.
Every little girl's dream.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure it's exciting business. But I get the impression listening to you talk that, really I feel like you could almost be in any industry, and I think you'd approach it the same way and find it exciting. Is that
exactly
fair?
I think it's a frame of mind, right? When I look back and in a workplace and a lot of other, if you're working with a non-for-profit, you can find a way to enjoy whatever you're doing, right? There's something amazing about anything, and that's what I find. Like, I look for those things, and I also pride myself on getting along with people at work. I've not had conflict. I see people have conflict, right? And part of it, sometimes I'm the mediator in my role. I try to take that away from Gary. And I'm like, how is it so hard? Because I've had six bosses, I think. I'm friends with all of them now. This one is still on, to be determined. But I think that's amazing if I think about, they were great mentors. I saw the mentorship that they gave me outside of and appreciated that and created these friendships. So I think everyone can do that. It's a frame of mind and how you think about your situation.
Well, yeah, there's obviously a lot of people have work that don't have satisfaction in what they do, but it's probably more of their problem than it is the employer.
I fully believe that. The employer has a responsibility to create a good environment and to take care of their people, to make them feel like they're going to be, there's mobility, you're going to have a career path, and you're going to be compensated well. But all things being equal, it's actually an internal monologue that you have to find, because there's so much good, right, in the world. And I actually think I have this appreciation because of how I grew up, but I think this country is I'm so patriotic, an amazing place. And I hear so much negativity about, America, we're going to move to Canada. If so. You hear that, but this is an incredible place to work, right, with the most incredible people. Like, I think generally Americans are pretty philanthropic, amazing people.
So you had a long career as a banker before you made the move to Triple S, and you were I don't know if you want to describe what you did, but you were in middle market banking. You saw a lot of businesses.
So I led Houston, Austin, San Antonio, El Paso, kind of the South Texas region in commercial banking. So that meant all of the business for companies that were middle market size, which, smaller than $2 billion or 2 and under. It's kind of gray. All of the people, the services, the products, funneling to take care of those customers reported into me. So that was that piece of the business.
So you probably, through that experience, I'm sure you came across, thousands of different businesses over your career, and you saw a lot. My question is, and a lot of those were probably family, closely held family businesses, or at least they started that way. What is it that you think makes for a successful business and how they can keep it going and thrive over time?
Well, it's funny. We had a deal we were looking at, and we just were told we didn't get it. It was an acquisition. And the banker said, so what is Triple S? Are they going to sell? What is their goal? I said, no, not at all. The goal is we're going to be a family-owned business for at least 100 years. But the way that it has to be done is the family has to get along. They have to be a really, really tight unit, right, which they are. And I see that firsthand. I've also seen companies, and that works, right? In the family structure, it's a tight unit. Everybody's really involved. Everybody loves each other, and they can work through problems directly. I've seen businesses where, for family businesses, if you don't have that, right, and the business transfers from one generation to the next, and then you get to like the 4th generation, you have people who, maybe there are 15 people at the table trying to lead an organization, and it's really hard to get anything done and make decisions. And if that is not the closest, most tight group of cousins in the world, and it breaks down, right? So we're doing a lot of work to make sure that doesn't happen, and it's not. But you have to be completely, I think, open, honest, transparent about this is the dynamic, and if we have an issue, we're going to be all over it. But successful companies also, after looking at a lot of businesses, are really clear about their intention and who they are and their core mission, and they really stick to that. And if they don't have a customer-focused mindset, it doesn't work, right? So you have to think about your customers first, and so that's your North Star. How do we service our customers, whoever that is, right? In any business, you have customers. And then take care of our people. And at Triple S, we don't even say employees, we say colleagues, right? Because that's how important, it's colleagues, we're partners. Because it's not such a cold word, employee, right? So they really, even to the nomenclature, I think we take it all the way there. But the companies that were super customer-centric and focused on their people were the best, right? And then you can talk about all kinds of KPIs and how they, that was probably tertiary.
Well, the current buzz right now, right, is artificial intelligence and AI and all that, I guess it's very easy to kind of get lost in the technology of it and lose sight of what's really important in a business. But with that being said, I mean, how is technology? Are you guys...
technology is really important, right? I mean, I think technology enables you, because again, if you think about this, it's easy to answer this question. It enables you to serve your customers better, and it makes your team's job easier, right? So this is why, like, the priority, if you have those 2 points, very easy. So then that makes technology incredibly important. So, and we're having a big digital transformation at Triple S that we're working on. We're gonna completely transform the business and our teams can't wait to have it, right? They want the ease of use, they want the automation. It'll help them serve our customers better at the same time. And AI, I think a lot of people are really afraid of AI. Like, there's this fear around it. And I think some of that is well-founded, but a lot of it is, if we do have this technology, and it's not going away, like it's here to stay forever. If we have jobs that, let's say, AI can do, or essays it can write for our kids, I think that scares a lot of parents. But at the same time, maybe they can evolve, and they have to do something else. So if they can do something else productive, I think we can evolve as a human race. I mean, you get people who are smarter. Now, this is if this all works well. It could also go the other way. But I think you've got to fill your time with something else, and that's what happens with technology. It just brings everyone up.
Well, I know in a recent conversation with one of my kids at college that, we started talking about his potential major and career path, and he starts scratching through all I'm not going to do that because AI is going to take care of it. It starts, I'm like, we're not left with much here, but with that being said, there are a lot of parents and grandparents out here, when they get asked that question or have those discussions with that next generation about, AI and whatever, I don't know, do you have a response to that about what they should think about from career? Should they even consider that, or just, do you have an advice to that?
I think you should do what your, strengths are, right? So if you are somebody that is naturally great at computers, like my son Ben probably should go into that because he's incredible with technology today as a 5-year-old. I mean, he gravitates to it, but that's not for everyone. So you've got to play to your strengths, right? I think the advice is play to your strengths. If that's one of your strengths, that's great. You'll probably have a lot of opportunity. If it's not, don't push yourself to do it.
All right, so one last question before our quick response round. So outside of the office, when you have time, what do you do to relax when you're not working?
Well, I try to go to the spa. I have a spa buddy here, so if I can, because that's the best way to do like a quick relaxation round. To me, it's either spa or Vegas. Like, it's there's a dichotomy there, but.
Spa or Vegas, is that what you said? Okay. Or a spa in Vegas?
Spa or Vegas, or a spa in Vegas is even better. I do like to gamble a little bit. But no, it's hanging out with my family, with my kids, with my friends. I mean, that really is what's kind of feeds the soul.
I do got to say is the senior rabbi, you see the best of Beth Yeshurun. You have the Steins, and I should note your neighbors are Mitch and Diane Levy. So I want you to know,
exactly.
There are a lot of nice people at Beth Yeshurun, but not everyone is as nice as that.
That's as good as it gets.
Yeah, so did the Steins put in your contract you have to join here one day?
David was actually kicking himself. He was like, I should have done that.
Come on, David. But now your husband's a founding member of his family.
Mike.
Okay. Founding members of Emmanuel.
We're going to cut that piece from the video.
The audio,
Pop, who's here, his family, the Felds, started Emmanuel, so we are locked in there.
We're okay. We're okay. All right.
Okay, so we're going to do just our session here with our questions. I'm going to just do a little kind of quick response on a few things, and then we're going to open it up. I'm sure there's some questions from our audience. So I'm just going to say a word and tell me what comes to mind.
Oh my God.
Okay, ready?
Okay.
Strategy.
Bullshit.
Would you care to elaborate?
Yes.
Does Gary know that?
I think it's overused, right? So everyone's like, let's have a strategy, let's do this. I think there's a lot of learning and understanding and trying to figure out like what you really need to do before saying, here's my global strategy. So I think when people throw that as it's a buzzword to me. There is strategy and everything, but there's a lot of buzzword kind of strategy that doesn't sit well with me. Exactly. Thank you.
Okay.
Rabbi is getting a little nervous now. This is two
wait.
in like 22 minutes.
You got to tell that story you were telling us before about your dad.
Okay,
It's
this
okay,
is funny.
it's
We had
okay. I'm allowing it.
We had a little pregame, and so I was telling them, it's just one of the funny stories when as I assimilated and my accent naturally, because I was a child and was easier to learn English, my accent went away. But my parents still had a very thick Russian accent. My dad still has he's looking at me like, what? Texan. There you go. Texan. He has a Texan accent. And my dad and my stepmom invite me to come home from college, and for the first time I decide I'm gonna bring, sorry honey, a boyfriend home, and it wasn't daddy, sorry. Lots of revelations here, but I bring him home, and to my Russian household, we're gonna have tea at first, right? And my husband also knows this. You get offered a lot of food, and sometimes you have to eat things like fish jelly and say "vkusna," to my Russian grandma. And my husband's been a trooper with that. So we have tea, and then my dad says, "Well, let's drink vodka." And so he brings out a bottle of vodka to this poor guy who barely really drank. And my dad's like, "You must take shots." And so they start taking shots. He gets him feeling pretty good. And at some point, they're standing up because we drink to women standing up. You must respect, So he's like, oh my God. So they're drinking to standing up. And my dad had surgery the month prior, and he had some metal put in his knee. And he was like, "Natalie, good news. I finally had my pins removed." And this guy is looking at me like, what did he say? He goes, I had my pins removed. And still he's not getting it. My dad's going, yes, it was very big. It was like this big. And he's looking at me like, this can't be real. And my stepmom goes, no, he's a liar. It's like this big. and so finally I stop torturing him, and I lean over and I say, he had metal pins removed from his knee.
Great story. Great story. Well, the these big or these big fits into our segue to our next one. Zoom.
Oh, I think it said zoo.
Zoom. No, Zoom. Yeah.
Zoom.
Any feelings about that?
I think of my husband showing up to a party in Zoom attire. I'll elaborate. One of our good friends, you may all know him, Elias Saratovsky, had a Zoom-themed party during COVID. And that was the attire, Zoom, because when we were all on Zoom for 15 hours a day, you had your work clothes and from the waist up and pajamas on the waist down, right? And that was what we did. And so Drew Marks took that literally, and he wore a blazer and he wore a dress shirt and boxers. And he walked into the party very confidently and said, this is what the invitation said. I just did what I was supposed to do.
Okay, so now I got just this or that, so whichever you just kind of, pick between the two.
Choice. I like that.
Pipes or bars? And of course, I'm
Bars.
referring to steel products, by the way.
We don't do a lot of pipes.
Bars. Okay.
Yeah, we don't
Okay.
compete. We don't compete. They're friends.
Okay. Stolenaya or Tito's?
Tito's.
Oh, Okay.
I was also a head of beverage banking at JP Morgan, so Tito's last name, fun fact, is Beverage. Tito Beverage.
So you learned something, Brian.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, they're getting tougher, progressively tougher here. Okay, there's 3 choices here. Kendall, Roman, or Shiv? And I couldn't let things
Excuse
go
me?
without a Succession reference. I don't know if
Oh.
you don't
Not
watch
Logan.
it.
I
Okay.
don't watch. I
You didn't
actually
watch it. If
refuse
you haven't
to
watched
watch
it, maybe you shouldn't watch it based on
Exactly.
your,
well, what I've heard is
okay.
I'm like, I am not going to watch it because we're not like that. That all sounds dysfunctional, and we're very functional at the Stein Co. We're not doing that. So I have not watched it because it literally.
Although I am interested. I haven't asked David if he
Ask
watches
Gary.
the show, or Gary. Okay, no, they don't watch.
Ask Gary. He was giving his kids a lot of references, and they told him to cut it off. No more Logan references.
Okay, well, last one. This one, don't even really think. Just let it fly as soon as it comes to mind. Okay, David Stein's salary. Okay. Okay. All right.
More than Bruce, yeah.
More.
It's
Okay.
exactly.
All right.
Yeah, that's a great.
I tried. Okay. Well, greater than $1. Okay.
It's greater than $1.
Okay. Well, thank you. All right, we're going to open it up to some questions from the audience.
Any questions for Natalie? All right, got a couple right there.
Were you 20, 30 years ago, I think when you were coming to the United States, were you part of the group from the Soviet Union that, they weren't letting people out?
Yes. So we were part of, we left in 91. So there was immigration law passed. The U.S. and Israel were allowing Russian Jews to come. So we had to apply for a green card, and it was a process that was difficult, and we didn't know until the very last minute if we were moving to the United States or to Israel. So you were told like almost, months prior, weeks prior, you didn't have them, and you couldn't take a whole lot with you because the Russian government was so terrible about a lot of the rules. So my dad always said, we can only take $400. That's it. And like one suitcase a person. So that's why these pictures you saw are basically the only pictures I have. I mean, it's like a tiny photo album. We couldn't really take a lot.
Stuart.
When did you arrive in Texas, and what was your first impression?
It's a good question. So I came I was 13. And so it was 93, 94. And I love Texas. And I still love Texas. I love Houston. I love the culture. I was like, they're cowboys and horses, right? And then you start meeting friends who tell you they have ranches and you can go on their ranch and ride it was really wild to me because it was just not what I ever imagined from Russia or Boston. But I loved it right away. And I thought the people were just welcoming, like very welcoming. I just made great friends pretty quickly. And Texas people were very warm, and it was a good transition. And I'm still like a huge Texas advocate, Houston advocate. Pop up. Drew Marks is just like the sweetest man on earth. He really is. He really is. And most handsome. Yes, another question. I went back just once. Yeah, so after college, after I graduated, between us, starting my first job at JP Morgan, I went that summer and visited, and it was very different. It was almost European, right? It was at that point, it felt like, you were in Paris in a way. Like we went to St. Petersburg and I was like, this is maybe prettier than Paris. And the stores were full and there was restaurants and entertainment and nightlife, and it felt very different. But what was interesting, I went back to our apartment building where we lived, and all my friends still lived at home with their parents, because 23, you probably live home till 28, maybe 30. So I found all my friends from the neighborhood, and we all went out, because they were all, I just kind of went door to door, and I'm like, I'm here. And they were all still there.
A couple more questions, Marcy.
Yeah. What do you have
It's a good question. I mean, I think one of the things that I love is a challenge, right? So I love feeling like I don't know everything, right? When I get to a point where I feel like I know everything, I'm a little bored, right? So my next challenge is to really know the steel industry. And I'm making some progress, but I have a long way to go. And a lot of the leadership training that I've received translated, but the steel language didn't, right? So sitting there at first and everybody was talking and I told Gary, I said, this sounds Greek to me. You know, when people are saying, okay, we're gonna buy, this is 836 and 24, 136 grade, and this, you know, depth of the, and I was like, what are all these numbers you're throwing around? And now I'm correlating, okay, they're talking about plate, they're talking about angle, they're talking about beams. And it's a language, just like I learned Russian, I'm learning steel, right? So for me, it's getting proficient in industry, because in banking, I was kind of a jack of all trades, right? I was with a lot of different companies, talking about a lot of different industries, and not having the ability to really come down and specialize in one thing. I mean, the beverage banking thing was kind of like a fun plaything, right? But really getting technical and becoming an expert. And I read somewhere it takes 10 years to really become an expert in something. So this is sort of an opportunity for me too to become that expert, and I have a long way to go, right, boss? Yeah.
So let's do 2 more questions, Rachel, and then is that Amy? And then Amy. Rachel, why don't you go first?
You made a lot of interesting points about business development and how you create your culture in your business. And you know, I'm in medicine, and I've dealt with a little older you, and we see some of like our residents coming in, and they don't have same work ethic, right? As we had, and I know probably like when I was a resident, it was like the more punishment, the better, and that's probably not a good thing either. But you know, and then you hear the new like movements of this quiet quitting and the lazy Mondays, and it really worries me, especially now that I have a child entering the workforce in the past year. And like, it just scares me for the future a little bit, and wanting to make sure my children don't. So what are your thoughts, and how do you try and work against or have you experienced any of that culture in business?
I mean, we're starting to see it in the Gen Z, kind of the younger population for sure, right? There's a lot of turnover in sort of the younger, some millennial Gen Zers. I think you have to find the right people, because what I find there is this divide between, there's some kids who really do want to work and are really talented and they have ambition and they really want to work hard, and there are a lot now that seem to sort of float around and they want these remote jobs and live in this remote economy. And I was talking to our head of sales, and he said he was picking up his daughter from, I think, University of Arkansas, and she was living with 7 other girls. And he said, only 2 of them have jobs. The rest are going back home to live with their parents. So it's a bit of a scary, I mean, that's anecdotal, but it's a bit of a scary dynamic, but it's okay. I think what I'm seeing is it's happening. It doesn't mean that those kids are never going to achieve anything. They're just going to do it later. It's like a lot of people are getting married later. There is a delay, right? They kind of want to continue a little bit of their childhood a little bit longer, unfortunately. Not everybody. But I still have hope for those kids, right? I really do. And we have a lot of really great young people. JP Morgan, we had pools of amazing young people, right? So when I would hear that, and I would say, I see that, but I also see this great group of really bright minds, and what they really want is they want to be heard, they want a seat at the table, right? They don't want to be treated like a number and somebody who's junior and entry level. They want to be treated like a person and given responsibility and ask for their input. So I think when they are in an organization, there are ways to engage them that really resonates with them. So it's understanding those, personality traits and what's important, what are their drivers and what makes people tick, and you can really engage, right? It's not gonna work for everyone, unfortunately. I don't have a magic formula, but I do think there's still hope for the younger generations.
All right, thank you. And last question, Amy.
Nat, thank you so much for sharing your story with all of us tonight. You talked a little bit about losing your accent. What about English acquisition? Do you remember
is a great question from a speech pathologist, too. It was really just being assimilated into it. And my parents, being kind of the tough Russian parents that they were, the principal of the elementary school met me and said, we recommend an ESL program. She clearly doesn't speak English, so she should be in ESL. And my parents said, no. She go to Russian regular. No, she'll learn. She needs to stop Russian regular program. So they just put me in the regular classes. And I just sat there, and I remember I didn't understand anything. For about a month, I didn't understand what people were saying. But then after 4 months of that, I was fluent. I think being immersed is honestly the best way. Maybe a hard way, but it's a really effective way to learn the English language quickly.
Well, please. Go ahead.
One of our companies is called Beshert, and it is Beshert that Natalie was to come to us. It's part of our family. It's all Beshert. It's in God's hands. We welcome Natalie. She's a great asset to our family, the Marks family, who is incredible people. We love them, and we're all mishpacha. It was Beshert.
Great.
It means a lot.
Nicely said. And we appreciate you. Hopefully this wasn't so far out of your comfort zone to agree to come do this with us tonight.
No, this was a lot of fun, and I just want to thank Stephen, you, and Rabbi Strauss. This is a great opportunity for me and David and everybody. This is an incredible opportunity to sit in front of my community. It's special.
Thank you. And I have a couple thank yous. First to Philip and to Jennifer Rosenzweig for all their help, and to Marco and our kitchen staff. Thank you, David and Gary and Bruce, for telling me about Natalie. Thank you again to the Stein family. And thank you to my friend Stephen Sheldon for all the hard work you put in for this. So thank you, Stephen. And just as you've given us something tonight, we want to give you a little gift.
Thank you. Oh, is it?
It's not,
Oh, it's heavy.
It's not a lifetime membership. That's just for Alex Bregman. But
Oh, right. That's fair. Fair enough. Okay, let's see.
But just something from our.
Oh, this is amazing.
So as you're teaching your children about Judaism, we give tzedakah every Friday before Shabbat. So
beautiful.
For your daughter and 2 sons, that's something for you to have in your home as you raise Jewish children.
Yes,
and
thank
how
you.
amazing is it that, a big round of applause for your father, too, and all the work and all the great things that they've done. So please stay. We got food, drink. 4525 will be back after the holidays, and hope to see everyone soon. Thank you, everyone, and thank you again, Natalie.